Hello, this is Nicktoons Unite on the DS, not on the console, that's a different version. We're outside the Fenton house right now, and this is the tutorial where we get used to all the characters' abilities while collecting paper. This isn't a collect-a-thon though, so don't worry about that. Jimmy is our jump guy. He's the only character with a double jump, and his special ability allows him to hover. Well, not just hover, it gives him a third jump. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. Every character has a special ability that can be activated by tapping the center of the screen, and as you're about to see, Jimmy's is his jetpack. Our special abilities are powered by those purple canisters we pick up, so if we pick up more of them in the air while we're hovering as Jimmy, we can keep hovering longer, or jetpacking longer, as it were. The characters do have more than just one special ability though. Danny has several. One of his is the ability to turn intangible and pass through objects. Instead of purple canisters, Danny picks up ectoplasm to activate his abilities. Passed right through that wall. We can only pass through special walls with intangibility, otherwise the game would be a little bit unplayable. Timmy's main feature is that he runs fast, and that's what we're going to be using him for most of the time. Danny also has the feature of wall jumping. Wall jumping is very situational, so you can't use it to reach too many interesting places, but you have to keep it in mind for when it's obviously necessary. And now it's time for SpongeBob's ability. SpongeBob can float straight up using his bubble. You may think we could just use Jimmy's jetpack for this, but it's better to use SpongeBob's bubble than Jimmy's jetpack in most situations where you need to reach a high place, because you usually want to save Jimmy's jetpack for something important. SpongeBob can also glide down gently using his underpants, and that will become important later for platforming. Now we're introduced to the combat, which is really simple. We hold down the fire button and strafe. All of the characters have different combat abilities, such as Timmy not having any combat abilities. Danny has the most reliable shot, so I usually go with him while doing combat, but SpongeBob is a close second. Jimmy has the worst attack, and Timmy has no attack at all. But that's okay, because Timmy has other abilities that we'll get into later that are not really combat related, but enemy related. We just picked up a super ability pickup. In addition to the normal special abilities each character has, they also have a super ability that we're never really going to use. I'm sure they would be useful in a game where the combat is a little more rough, but it's not really a problem in this game. Now we've entered the room with the ghost portal, and as you can see, ectoplasm has spilled everywhere, which is terrible. So we need to avoid touching that or we will take damage. Some of the jumps in here can be tricky, and you can either use Jimmy's jump to make them a lot easier, or get used to the single jumps of the rest of the characters. We're going to activate Danny's super ability here just because we can, but it's very underwhelming. For reference, I am playing this with the PS4 controller, and using the touchpad to do touch controls, so it's a little wonky, but I didn't want to plug in my tablet just to play Nicktoons Unite on the DS. Danny's super ability is a Ghost Shield, which makes him invulnerable to enemies and destroys them when we touch them. So that's kind of fun. I don't think it's very useful, but it's fun. Moving platforms are a little bit difficult to navigate at first in this game, because most of the characters have a single jump, and Jimmy has a very deliberate second jump. And I very much like this first level because it's a good way to get used to the jump arcs of all the characters without any high-risk platforming, without any really big stakes. Now we're supposed to hop back down and take a different way to that platform we just raised, but surprisingly the 3D engine Climax used is robust enough for us to do things like stand on this 2D railing, if I can position Jimmy right, but I can do it. Give me just a moment, and then we can jump over there this way. You're not supposed to do that, but I was surprised it was possible, and I always like to try things like that. On the upper level here, there are 2 more papers to collect, and then 1 more on the bottom floor that we missed, but it's okay, we'll go back. We're using Jimmy's double jump here, even though we could use Danny's single jump, because I'd rather not fall down. Switching between characters is really easy, even without the stylus. You just move them into the center of the screen, on the bottom there. Like that. And I appreciate that all the characters feel like completely different platforming protagonists. It really makes it feel like they're actually working together to accomplish a goal with their unique abilities, which isn't something that I felt from the Nicktoons Unite game on console. I think this is a much better game. Even though the presentation for the cutscenes and story is worse, the game mechanics much better match what the game is supposed to be about, which is the 4 heroes working together to accomplish a single goal. It doesn't feel forced, you actually want to use all the characters because of their unique platforming abilities. And I like that. Anyway, aside from me very much liking the way the game design is laid out, I also quite appreciate the environments. The environments in Nicktoons Unite aren't bad, but this version of Nicktoons Unite actually has a Retroville level, which the console version didn't. And I always like games where there's a Retroville level. I also very much appreciate that Professor Calamitous has a bigger role in this version of Nicktoons Unite because Professor Calamitous is my favorite Jimmy Neutron villain. It's not as though there are too many Jimmy Neutron villains, but I really like Professor Calamitous. Sadly, instead of Technus, we get Vlad in Nicktoons Unite, and I guess Vlad's an okay villain, but I find him to be a bit predictable. The game has many simple touchscreen minigames like that, but some of them are less simple. We'll worry about that when we get there. For now, we need to get rid of all these ghosts and close the ghost portal that someone opened, so that way we can stop the ghosts from escaping into Danny's world. This game has a very simple pathfinding puzzle in the form of pressing buttons to raise and lower platforms. It's nothing too hard, but you do have to actually think about what you're doing. We don't want to waste any of Jimmy's jetpack power here, because we need it for some of the platforming in this room, otherwise we won't be able to complete the level, and we'll have to die. As you're seeing, unlike Danny's shot, Jimmy's shrink ray is not so great for combat. You can only target a single enemy at a time, and you have to be relatively close to fire at them. It's just not great, but that's okay because Jimmy's our platforming guy. We're going to be using Danny for combat. Danny's auto-aim is just very, very good. Make sure not to miss the spawn point behind the ghost portal that I just got. I missed that spawn point a few times, and I was wondering why I couldn't complete the level. Now that we've gotten rid of all the ghosts in their spawning point, we just have to wait for the platform to lower. And then we can get to the tricky part of the platforming in this level. It's understandably the last bit of platforming in the entire level. I like how little of this level was tutorial. Most of it was just actual gameplay. The idea is to get atop the ghost portal, and there are a lot of ways to get atop the ghost portal, but I find this one to be the most reliable and least scary. and then we just have to get up to the last spawning point. I know that probably looked very simple, but the ghost portal is surprisingly slippery to stand on. Jimmy, your shrink ray isn't very good. Let's get Danny back out here. Okay, now we simply have to do another minigame where we put the ghosts back. After we perform the minigame where we put the ghosts back in the portal, the stage will end. It's that simple, and I'll see you next time for the next level of Danny's World.